Welcome back, my friends. Today on the channel, we're going to do the monthly question and answer video. Once a month on the Posts tab, my YouTube channel, I'll put out a question prompt such as this one. Down below, you can ask me anything about anything, read each other's questions, and then thumbs up the ones you want me to respond to. The cutoff for today's video was 50 thumbs up. Thank you so much to everyone who left a question or read each other's questions. So the top-ranked question was from Lorenz. Why is the US not selling Ukraine any military equipment? Not even defense equipment to protect their citizens. This is the story. This was 2 weeks ago that Zelensky said, I'd like to buy 10 Patriot air defense systems for $15 billion. That is $1.5 billion per Patriot battery system. This is revenue for the United States. This is jobs. This is good for America's defense industry. So, of course, Donald Trump said no. Zelensky's always looking to purchase missiles. Trump dismisses Ukraine's request to buy defensive Patriot air defense systems to stop North Korean ballistic missiles being launched by the Russians against civilian cities. There's no excuse. There's no defense for this. This is just Vladimir Putin telling Steve Witkoff, tell Trump no. And Trump just does whatever Vladimir Putin tells him to do. This is just corruption coming from Russia. I understand people are looking for a deeper meaning or a deeper ideology, but that's not what motivates Trump. The only thing that motivates Trump is money for himself. He's the president of the United States, the most powerful man in the world in theory, and he still, at the age of 78, only cares about making money for himself. Case in point, Trump's meme coin is up 84% this week because Donald Trump announced that the top 200 coin holders will get a dinner with Donald Trump at some point in the future. Trump announced this now. I mean, we can go back to the all-time performance. Trump's coin was originally at $74, and now it's at $15. But it's because the first lockup agreements are expiring. When you launch these coins, the insiders who control 80 or 90% of the coins, they have lockup agreements for like 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, and a year. Because the first round of lockups are about to expire, Trump pumped the coin by announcing a dinner. Now, I don't think this dinner is ever going to happen. Trump frequently lies to his supporters, saying, donate money and you'll be in a raffle and you can come have dinner with me at Mar-a-Lago, and then he never does the dinners. So Trump at the moment is pumping his own meme coin as president of the United States to cash out shares for himself and make billions of dollars. Today, as president, Trump is making more money for himself with this meme coin than he ever made in real estate. He ever made in television or on The Apprentice. This is the only thing he thinks about. This is what motivates him. Trump Tower project in Moscow might be offered by Putin. This has been a dream of Trump's for decades, to have his own building with his name on it in Moscow. I understand when you see pictures like this, Trump and Zelensky talking, for example, at the Vatican, you want to be hopeful that Trump will change, that Trump will realize his errors and then do the right thing. The problem is that if Zelensky gets 15 minutes with Trump doesn't feel normal human emotions anymore. He doesn't feel sympathy for dying or suffering people. He's only motivated by power and influence. And as soon as he walks away from Zelensky after maybe a very good 15-minute conversation, Trump has surrounded himself by Russian agents. He's going to leave the Vatican and then get on the phone with Elon Musk, go talk to RFK Jr., Tulsi Gabbard, Kash Patel. All of these guys are pro-Russian. All of these guys hate Ukraine. And this is who Donald Trump has surrounded himself with. So I think I think things are going to have to get worse for Donald Trump politically. Like, his approval rating is going to have to go down farther before he stops listening to the Putinists in his government and listens to people like Macron of France, or Starmer in the UK, or Duda in Poland. These are America's real friends, not the Russians. Next question. What do Americans think about siding with Putin and Russia, including some of the UN votes? Do Americans like their new friends and allies? I think this person is referring to the recent votes in the United Nations in which the US voted with their allies: Belarus, North Korea, Russia, Niger, Sudan. This was a resolution basically condemning Russian aggression. And the United States can be neutral. The United States can abstain. China abstained. India abstained. Iran abstained. The United States is deliberately voting against Europe, voting against Ukraine in the United Nations to let the Russians know they're on their side. So your question is, how do ordinary Americans feel? And if you're a Harris voter, if you're a Democrat or a liberal, you're horrified, you're shocked. But to the average Trump supporter, his core, they don't care. They're just going to say and do whatever Donald Trump tells them. It's a cult. They've surrendered. And unfortunately, including Trump's first term, he has just normalized dictators to his own base, his own supporters. When Donald Trump meets with and says good things about Kim Jong-un, 30 or 40% of Americans think, well, maybe Kim Jong-un isn't that bad of a guy. Trump says the best leader in Europe is Viktor Orban, who is an autocrat. Trump likes MBS and the Saudis. They got a lot of money. Trump also only says nice things about Xi. Trump tries to play it both ways, saying that he's tough on China. He'll be critical of China, but he will never be specifically critical of Xi in any way. And he only ever says nice things about Xi. And then there's Putin. Trump's been this way for over 10 years. He will never say one negative thing about Putin, and will constantly say they're great friends and that he respects him. So for the average American, Trump's core supporters, these are very close-minded people that don't care about or think about the rest of the world. Whether or not people in the Middle East or people in Africa, Asia, or Europe have democracy, Trump's core supporters don't care. They don't care if you don't have human rights in China or in Russia. One way or another, they don't care. And most Americans who support Trump, they're not very well traveled, and they have no curiosity about the rest of the world. Only about 45% of Americans have a passport. And it is our geography. It is time-consuming and expensive to escape the North American continent, to take a plane to either Europe or Asia or South America. It's a long flight, and it's expensive, and a lot of Americans are broke right now. So even for the Americans who do travel and have some understanding of the international world, they don't go very far. The top destinations that Americans travel to is Mexico, Canada, and then the UK. Beyond that, Italy, France, the Dominican Republic, Spain, Germany. Americans don't really know, or Trump supporters don't really know what it's like in authoritarian regimes. We live in a bubble. I can admit that to you guys. It's very easy to live that way here in the United States, unfortunately. Next question. This is a good one. What happens to the MAGA movement post-Trump? Do you worry the problem is beyond Trump and the current political players? Might he be replaced by someone who's worse, more ruthless, and even not as stupid as Trump? I've had this thought, and for my international viewers, Trump has been a national figure for decades. Trump deliberately did provocative things in the 1980s to get into tabloid papers. He loved the coverage. He loved the scandals. He loved the press he would get when he would marry somebody and then cheat on them and divorce him. Trump has been a firm believer for over 50 years that there is no such thing as bad press. All press is good press, according to Donald Trump. So in the 2000s, Trump was a reality TV star on the show The Apprentice. And this was a very highly rated show that many Americans watched. There's even a Comedy Central roast of Donald Trump. And there's something about human emotions. There are certain emotions that are on the opposite spectrums. You could view one as love and hate. If you hate somebody, it's kind of hard to also love them. Opposite emotions. And the other polar emotions is anger and humor. If you can get someone to laugh, you instantly break the part of their brain that is angry at that person. So Donald Trump is a pattern disruptor. For people who get angry at him, if he says or does something stupid that makes you laugh, you kind of just blank your brain and then forget that you were mad at him. I think this has happened to a lot of Republicans who at some points hated him and disagreed with him. But because he is such a laughable, stupid, weird, comical character, it just disrupts people's brains. And the easiest thing you can do for a lot of Americans is to surrender and just go with the flow. Whatever he says, whatever he wants to do, it's easier to go along with it emotionally than it is to resist it. It's excruciating to constantly hate Donald Trump when he keeps going, and it's been 10 years. So specifically, you asked, who is going to replace Donald Trump once Donald Trump is no longer with us? And thankfully, I don't think it'll be any of his kids. Like, I think in the future, there will always be a Trump running for office to make money for themselves. But I don't think any of his kids have the personality or the accomplishments to attract the MAGA base to follow them once Donald Trump passes away. And we need this. We need to prevent this coalition from coming back together. And this can only happen if they're fighting amongst themselves to figure out who should lead the party next. The Republican Party that I knew my entire life is gone. It's dead. The party of Reagan and the Bush family, it's not coming back. So what will MAGA or the Republican Party morph into in 2028 or 2032? That's up to the influencers and what direction they want to take the party they now control. Donald Trump is not going to live forever. There is going to be someone who comes after him, and we can only hope he is less effective at building such a powerful apparatus. And I really do need to make like a dedicated video giving my thoughts and reactions being a social media influencer in an era where social media influencers drive the debate. Honestly, when I watch cable news clips, most of what cable news is today is just responding to what happens on social media. Why would you watch cable news in America when they're just talking about what's happening on social media? You can just go to social media and experience it for yourself. And what happened with Donald Trump is he built such a critical mass of followers that it was easy to sell out to make money off of those followers. If Donald Trump firmly controlled 30% of the American population, then if you were a social media personality talking about sports or entertainment or technology or finance, any other topic, you had a golden opportunity to switch and then just promote Trump. Pump his propaganda to enrich yourself. I know how much money I make from YouTube, and based on my numbers, I know how much probably Tim Pool and Dave Rubin and all of these other grifters who promote Trump just to enrich themselves. So once Trump is gone and they're not unified, I hope these people break up they fracture and they start fighting amongst themselves. They definitely love the drama. That's not a good plan, but it's what I'm hoping happens prior to 2028. Next question. Do you feel at risk of being targeted by the MAGA Stapo? I'm assuming you're asking the question, as an American in America, do I now feel unsafe being openly critical of Donald Trump? And yes, I would be foolish not to be. Donald Trump is declaring war on the free press. He's declaring war on the courts. He's completely ignoring Congress. Donald Trump was democratically elected. Donald Trump did get a majority of the votes. But what he is currently trying to do is an autocratic coup of our democracy. He is trying to guarantee that he will stay in office for the rest of his life. There is no checks and balances. Nobody can hold him accountable. Trump wants the power to just disappear anyone he doesn't like to a gulag in El Salvador. So this is the big story from the last week. Trump has started arresting judges he does not like. Milwaukee is my hometown, and Milwaukee County Circuit Judge Hannah Dugan was charged with 2 felonies in an ICE case. This is what MAGA wants. At the moment, Elon Musk and his propaganda machine, they are vilifying the courts because it's the job of the courts to interpret and enforce the law. That's actually not true. It's the executive branch's job to enforce the law, but the courts say what the law is. And Donald Trump is not okay with that. Donald Trump wants the power to create law, interpret law, and enforce law. And if only one man is doing all 3 of those things, that is a dictatorship. And in a dictatorship, it is not okay to be critical of the dictator. That's what I do. I make YouTube videos talking about what a terrible person Donald Trump is. So yes, it is true. I do think eventually their supporters will notice me and come for me. Concerning the judges or anyone that Donald Trump tries to arrest and prosecute, this can all be undone. As soon as Donald Trump is removed from office or a new president is sworn in, anyone that he fake charges or tries to convict, they can be pardoned by a future president. Additionally, I don't think this is going to go anywhere because what jury is going to convict this judge? What federal judge is going to hear this case and not immediately toss it out? So Trump is trying to trigger this autocratic coup, and it's not really working. It's very concerning and dangerous. Everyone has to take it serious, but he is failing. Concerning Trump's core supporters, they're very stupid, but they're also violent. These people love threatening. They love bullying. I've been receiving hate comments from Trump supporters. I receive them every day, guys. I do receive death threats. Like, they're not specific death threats. They're just kind of like, general, I hope you die, or I don't think anyone knows where I live. I don't think anyone's coming for me. I don't think anyone's trying to specifically find me. But even if somebody was, I wouldn't feel comfortable going to the FBI. The FBI, being run by Kash Patel, is no longer there to protect people. It's only there to enforce whatever Donald Trump wants to do. I have been waiting for this, guys. I've been waiting for some MAGA influencer to declare war on me and then start making Jake Bro Expose videos or Jake Bro Uncovered. I'm a good person. I've led a good life. I don't think I have anything to hide, but people can always lie. They can always just make stuff up about me to try and discredit me if I'm critical of their dictator. It also comes down to demographics. When you look at who voted for who in the last election, here are the 4 charts, and Donald Trump's core audience is uneducated men, specifically white men. So the demographics, 61% of college-educated women voted for Harris, but 61% of uneducated men voted for Donald Trump. It's never been this bad between the two political parties, having them be basically partitioned by gender. And I do think that Democrats have to do a better job of appealing to male voters and the issues that male voters care about. Donald Trump just lies and says, elect me and I'll do this, this, and this for you, and then he doesn't actually do anything for these people. But they do have genuine concerns, and they should be taken serious. So I feel like because I'm a white guy, I'm a straight white guy, MAGA just ignores me. There are easier targets for them with their base to go after female influencers or people of color or people in the LGBT community. So MAGA is focused on them, silencing them, threatening them, bullying them. But if all those people go silent first, yeah, MAGA is eventually going to try and come for me over the next 4 years. Next question. Who has the legal authority and the actual power to stop Trump from running for a third term? Congress. This is what the second impeachment of Donald Trump was really about, and nobody was paying attention. So here is Article 1, Section 3, Clause 6 and 7 of the Constitution. Judgment in cases of impeachment shall not extend further than to removal from office and disqualification to hold and enjoy any office of honor, trust, or profit under the United States. So with the second impeachment of Donald Trump, he left office. Like there was the January 6th riot, the House voted to impeach, the Senate then went to trial, and the Senate failed to get 2/3 to remove Trump from office when he was already gone. Trump left office on January 20th, and the trial for the second impeachment was between January 26th and the 13th. So Senate Republicans like Rand Paul were screaming, you can't impeach a president who's no longer in office. And the Democrats were saying, yes, we can. We have to impeach him to prevent him from running again in 2024. In 2021, this was being discussed. If we impeach him, the Constitution says he's not able to run for any office, anywhere, ever again, if he is successfully impeached. That's the answer to your question, but Republicans in Congress are cowards and they're not going to do it. They might do it, but things are going to have to get worse. What is the biggest and clearest sign to look out for that the Russian economy is about to collapse, or Russia is about to collapse? And I think the easiest answer is just the stock markets. People in these companies know more than the general public. And if Saudi investors and Chinese investors and Iranian investors are still putting their money in Russia, then they don't believe Russia is going to collapse anytime soon. So the stock market in Russia is the indicator. I mean, from 4,200 to 2,000, this was a 50% drop. And it's more or less stabilized over the last 5 years. Another thing could be a bank run. Banks in Russia have to start failing due to lack of liquidity, or they don't have enough deposits in reserve to cover outstanding loans. And there has been discussion in the Russian central bank of seizing private deposits. So any mom and pop who has money in the bank, Putin can say, we're going to reclaim that money to keep the budget solvent. That's not happened yet, but Russia's central bank has done a very good job of putting limitations in place so that money can't leave Russia, and Russia at the moment is still financially stable. It's not ideal. Inflation is over 10%, and it's been that way for over 3 years now. Everyone in Russia is economically struggling, but they haven't collapsed yet. We might still have a ways to go. And I know your next question is, why hasn't Russia collapsed? And it all has to do with leverage. And I finally understand what Putin has been doing the last 3 years. He is leveraging the wealth of his inner circle to keep everything going. So Putin's inner circle, these billionaires, they're all in charge of different industries. You've got the iron and steel billionaire, the metals billionaire, the oil and gas billionaire, the coal billionaire. There's like a titanium billionaire, the banking and telecom billionaire. But they don't actually have billions. They have equity in Russian companies. Yes, they're still very wealthy. They have their mega yachts. But most of their wealth is tied up in the valuation of their companies. And Putin is leveraging all of that, forcing these companies to take on debt at very high interest rates to keep everything going. Everything is being leveraged based off the wealth of Putin's inner circle. So if Russia collapses, all of these guys get wiped out. They're no longer billionaires. And in a way, this motivates them to keep Putin going. Don't let Putin's government collapse, because then all of their industries go bankrupt, the equity in their company gets wiped out, and they're no longer billionaires. It's going to happen. Eventually. Putin's not going to stop these wars, and this isn't sustainable. They've been able to sustain it for 3 years. But can they do it for 4? Can they do it for 5? Can they do it for 6? I think we're going to find out. Next question is from Ohms. What can the EU and NATO countries do to assist Ukraine with their air defense systems? Send more. There are air defense systems that are very capable that can be produced in Europe. There's NASAMS, there's IRIS-T. But really, Europe needs to send Ukraine more jets. There's the French Mirage plane, and then the Swedish Gripen. And these planes serve as air defense systems. When Russia launches their drones and missiles, jets take to the sky and they use air-to-air missiles to shoot down drones and ballistic missiles. So Patriots are the best in the world as far as mobile air defense systems. And if the United States is not willing to cooperate and help Ukraine defend their cities, then Europe has to send more of what they have, as well as these planes. I think these planes are the best air defense systems, even though there's a risk. When these jets take to the skies, we had the accident late last year. The Ukrainian pilot, I think, it's a story from last year. I think it was friendly fire. It was confirmed. But there's no better alternative. I don't think Russia is ever going to stop launching ballistic missiles and drones against Ukrainian cities to kill civilians until they lose the war. Next question. Hey, Jake. This is a short one. With all of this Trump stuff going on, should or will Ukraine kickstart production of nuclear weapons? Thanks for all you do. There's probably been a discussion, but no. I don't think Ukraine at the moment is secretly developing nuclear weapons. But they can. The reason why they're not is this might alienate European partners who don't want Ukraine to escalate the war to be a nuclear exchange. But if there were credible reports that Ukraine was trying to develop nukes, that would give Russia justification to nuke Ukraine first. There needs to be a true freeze in the conflict, and Russia has to ideally be distracted for Ukraine to go nuclear. But it wouldn't be that difficult. Ukraine has all the fissile material they need from their civilian reactors. Their civilian reactors have been making nuclear waste for decades. The nuclear waste is stored on site. And all you need is plutonium, which is a byproduct of nuclear reactors, and you can make a 1945 style atomic weapon. This technology has existed in the world for 80 years. I don't want that. We shouldn't have to do this. But yes, I think at some point in Ukraine's future, they will get back nuclear weapons And really, if any nation in the world is justified in doing that, it's Ukraine. How will the Trump administration's behavior, actions, and attitude impact the American military-industrial complex in the long term? This is going to be a controversial statement for this video, but the military-industrial complex doesn't exist. There's this famous speech when Eisenhower left office in 1958, warning about the dangers of the military-industrial complex that was growing during the Cold War. But when the Cold War ended in 1992, all of these defense companies, a lot of them went away. A lot of them were bought out or merged, and we only have a couple large defense contractors left. But these guys don't call the shots. They don't make any important decisions. The largest defense contractor is Lockheed Martin. Boeing, Raytheon, General Dynamics, Northrop Grumman, Huntington Ingalls, L3. The market cap of these companies, how valuable, how powerful are these companies? And Lockheed Martin is only worth $111 billion. I say only, but you have to compare it to America's other large companies. Meta is now worth $1.3 trillion. Facebook is 10 times more powerful, valuable, influential than Lockheed Martin. Amazon is worth $2 trillion market cap, so Amazon is 20 times more valuable than Lockheed Martin. So if you're the president of the United States, if you're a politician, if you're in government, you don't really care what Lockheed Martin has to say anymore. Now, the valuation and size of these defense contractors was much larger in the 1970s and the 1980s. So it did influence politicians. It influenced our government. But that paradigm doesn't exist anymore in the last 25 years. The largest, most powerful and influential companies in the world, Apple, Nvidia, Microsoft, Amazon, Meta, Google, Broadcom, Tesla. Politicians listen to these people. They care about these people. I mean, I had to Google who is the CEO of Lockheed Martin, and does Donald Trump ever talk to this guy? Does anyone in the Senate or Congress care what he has to say? Like, maybe. But the military-industrial complex in the United States isn't as powerful as it was in 1991. And I don't think members of our governments make decisions based on what they want anymore. I mean, why is Trump not selling Patriot air defense systems to Ukraine when that's $15 billion? It's a good question. Next question from Sandy. Zelensky has pointed out what Trump and his administration said regarding Crimea in 2018, directly contradicting what he is saying now. Do you think this will have an impact on Trump going forward? Thank you, as always, for the work you do, keeping us informed. This was Zelensky's response to Trump's final offer, peace proposal, saying that Ukraine has to recognize Crimea as belonging to Russia. And this is absurd. This was Donald Trump's official position in 2018. The United States calls on Russia to respect the principles to which it has long claimed to adhere and to end its occupation of Crimea. Mike Pompeo, Trump's Secretary of State, also said, "No sanctions on Russia will be lifted until Crimea is returned to Ukraine." Yeah, Trump doesn't care. Trump lies, Trump contradicts himself, Trump backpedals all the time on everything. Trump has the memory of a goldfish, and so do his supporters. Just being honest, I mean, I don't think this shames or impacts what Donald Trump thinks or feels in any way. In many ways, a lot of the stuff that Donald Trump did in his first term, like the trade deals with Mexico and Canada, he's just pretending like it never happened. Like he was never president before, and everything he did and said in his first term doesn't matter anymore for some reason. What was your question? Do you think it will have an impact? No. No, Trump doesn't care. Why is Ukraine not going after the refineries anymore since Putin is not going along with the ceasefire? Why doesn't Ukraine send a mass drone to Moscow and go after the presidential palace? The second part to your question, Ukraine is not going to target civilians. Ukraine does not want to accidentally kill innocent people in Russia. Ukraine would then lose its moral superiority over what the Russians are doing. Concerning the refineries, I think Zelensky made the political calculation that if they just stop attacking refineries for a month because they agreed to it and Russia keeps violating it, this makes Russia look bad. This makes Russia look indefensible. But the 30-day ceasefire on energy infrastructure expired, and Ukraine can now start going after these refineries. And there is some strategy to holding off on attacking them if they're currently being repaired. If Russia is wasting money and manpower and resources fixing a refinery, you don't want to hit that refinery again until they're done with their work. You want them to spend the time, waste the man hours, allocate the resources, get it back up and running, and then you hit it again for maximum damage, maximum waste. Okay guys, that's all for this Q&A video. If you've made it this far, you're a super fan. I appreciate you guys. We don't know what's going to happen. Anybody trying to make predictions on social media, trying to explain to you what's going to happen in the next 3 months, they're lying. They don't know. I don't know. Nobody knows if Russia will imminently collapse. Nobody knows if Ukraine will make a deal somehow. Nobody knows if Donald Trump will flip on Russia or go even harder on Ukraine. So I'm going to keep making these videos. That's all we can do. Continue resisting. Continue opposing Putin. Continue opposing Trump. Continue supporting Ukraine. That's all for this video. Till the next one, everyone, take care.